Agenda Kenya tonight, Honorable Martha Karua, Member of Parliament Gishugu, Chairperson, NARC Kenya. Joy Mboya, Chief Executive Officer, the Go Down Arts Center. Dr. Ringera Karambu, Founder and President, International Peace Initiatives. George Washira, Senior Researcher and Policy Advisor, Nairobi Peace Initiative Africa. And last but not least, Rebecca Kitana, Executive Director, Women Empowerment Society. Hello and thanks for joining us. This is Agenda Kenya. I am Jason Nyantino. Tonight we discuss peace and reconciliation, and we are asking how best can we reconcile this country for the benefit of peace and prosperity in this country. I've got a fantastic audience with me tonight, people from Garissa, people from Kijabe, and also Nairobi. Welcome aboard. Before I take my first question of the evening, I want to give this chance to Washira to give us probably a snapshot of the environment of peace and reconciliation in Kenya.
Thank you, Jason. For a long time, we as Kenyans had come to believe that maybe we are a special people, that we were immune to the kinds of conflicts and violence that we had witnessed in countries surrounding us. We were rudely disabused of that notion last year at the beginning, and in a very, very tragic way, because we lost lives, many lives of Kenyans. We also lost our standing as a nation in the community of nations, and it was really tragic. Now, the interesting thing is that what happened to us last year can be a good thing, if only, tragic as it was, if only we have learned from it. It could be the kind of thing that makes us pause as a country and see what we have learned from it, why we went the way we did, and what we need to do in order for that to never happen to us again. The whole question of peace and reconciliation begins when we begin to encounter ourselves as Kenyans, to ask ourselves the serious question, why did we go the way we did? What have we learned, and what do we need to do? What do we need to do to build a new society where we are a caring people, where a person from any community is as important as I coming from any other community?
But Washira, yeah. Do you have a feeling that Kenyans are ready for peace and reconciliation?
It's a question that I've been asking myself. At one level, I can see the yearning of people with regard to never wanting to repeat what happened to them. But you see, it takes a lot. What we did was within a few months. It will take us years to rebuild even a semblance of what we had. It's going to require concerted political leadership, other levels of leadership that are not necessarily political, but it's also going to require the initiative of ordinary people like ourselves, ordinary Kenyans, reaching out to each other. If the environment for that kind of a process is not right, then it will not happen. My fear is that we are still spending time focusing on what divides us as a people. Our political leadership is not focused enough to lead us in that direction. The question, therefore, would be, who is going to lead us towards the road of reconciliation?
All right, yeah, Washira, thanks for that snapshot. Now let's take our first question of the evening from Gichana Rebecca. Gichana, your question, please.
What is the role the parents have taken in enhancing peace and reconciliation, the process of
the role of parents? Mheshimiwa, I presume you're a parent. Yeah. Charity begins at home. What have you taught your children?
I think every parent must bring up the children to know that first and foremost they are Kenyans, and that our daily lives are not defined by our ethnicity. However, it's easier said than done, because when the children get out into the public, they, along with others, can be incited and hoodwinked by politicians like myself. It will take the collective effort of the nation our collective effort as citizens to dialogue with ourselves and to see the folly of rising against one another based on ethnicity, to actually focus and see that our daily lives are determined by what is in our pocket. If you go to the slum areas of Nairobi, you'll find people from all ethnic groups. If you go to the rich areas, upmarket areas, you'll again find people from all ethnic communities. Even if your brother is in Muthaiga and you are in Mathare, your children may still sleep hungry when your brother or your sister is feeding not only the family but the dogs as well.
Do you believe Kenyan parents, as we know them, do you think they promote negative ethnicity?
I don't think, I won't blame it on the parents, because the parents are so bogged down with everyday life. I doubt that there is any parent who in the morning or in the evening tells the children about ethnicity. But when the problems are too much, you might go to a neighbor or a person you think can help you. But the reality of the situation, help does not come with ethnicity. You eke out your living. We are a caste race. God said we shall all prosper by the sweat of our hands. So what we need is a government that creates the enabling environment for everybody to eke out a living through their sweat, and for the poor to be supported by the government.
All right, thank you. Dr.
In addition to what Honorable Mother Karua has said, I think that parents have a very great role in bringing up children in ways that enhance peace. Take a scenario where in one house there is a parent who is from ethnic group A and another one from ethnic group B. And in the villages, some of their relatives have been hurt in a clash or something like that. And people in the home start taking sides. You know, there are things that we call stereotypes, how we talk about other people. And so parent A will start saying that, look at this and the other. They are this, they are this and the other. They, you know. The
cultural stereotypes.
What we say in our houses, our children are listening and they hear and they conceptualize that. So even the way we talk in our homes. I'm saying this because I was in a scenario where that kind of thing happened in a house and where two parents were not talking because they couldn't agree on certain issues. And so what I'm saying is that parents, please remember the things that we say, even if we think that the children are not hearing. When our visitors come, what kinds of things do we say when we have our friends in our houses? Our children are listening.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Angela. Joy, you can also tell us about the Kenya banning. You went around the country the other day to talk to Kenyans about the post-election violence related to the role of parents and the Kenya banning in a very short fashion.
In fact, as the Honorable Karua was saying, it's a collective effort towards reconciliation and peace. And one of the things that the artist community did, and certainly the Go Down Art Center did, was to carry an exhibition of images, photographs, after the post-election violence to Nakuru, to Eldoret, to Mombasa, to Kisumu, and here in Nairobi. And I think what was overwhelming about the response of the public, as you asked earlier, Jason, is whether Kenyans are ready for peace, is I think the Kenyans are ready for peace. But it will be a process, and it will not be a process that happens overnight. The comments, I think, reflected the beginning of an awareness of Kenyans about their responsibility as voters and their responsibility as politicians. Of course, a lot of the comments targeted the politicians and said the politicians have failed us, the politicians misuse us, the politicians, once the vote has been cast, do not fulfill their promises. But I think the other powerful aspect of that comment was the Kenyan who is a voter reflecting on their own individual responsibility to make sure that the most capable citizen is the one who is in, despite ethnicity. Another powerful sentiment that came through is really the ethnicity, that this ethnicity should not be an issue or a problem at all.
So Joy,
nobody chooses whether they're born, as you said, ethnic B or ethnic A.
So Joy, do you believe parenting has an issue then?
Absolutely, I think so. In fact, the Honorable Karua talked about parents, you talked about parents in mixed families, Rigera, and I'm talking about mothers particularly. Mothers are the first educators of the children. This is an important role that we play as women. And I think it is a role that we need to take on as women now and see how the character of our children, the attitudes of our children, the quality of human being, the quality of Kenyan that we deliver is really dependent a lot on what we as mothers give our children. I think that
Thank you. Thanks for that role of women in peace. I think now you understand why I have very many women on my panel tonight, okay? And only one man, nothing personal, Washira. I'm taking my next question of the evening from Stephen Kusero, who is a farmer. Stephen, swali lako tafadhali.
My question is, what are we doing to encourage intermarriages between our youths, which seems to reduce the tension of tribalism?
Intermarriages. Rebecca, should you encourage intermarriages to?
Really, that's a very good question. And, I just wonder when people start fighting, because you go to one home, there is a Luo married to a Kikuyu. There is a Kamba married to a Taita. There is this married to this one. Now you even wonder when it comes to fighting. Now in the house, these are the Kikuyu, these are the other one. Now what language do they speak? I think we should also encourage, intermarriage.
Do you have children?
I do.
Will you encourage them to marry Pokomos, Bajunis?
By the way, you will not even choose, because nowadays, take for example, the children are out. There are those in universities, there are those out of the country. They will just come with a husband, or they will just come with a wife. Are you there to decide? You cannot decide.
Some parents say no. Some parents say no. Oh, that one who doesn't speak my language.
You know what? You know why? It's because it is the background. Those people, the roots. Our grandfathers or the grandmothers, it's just like the way we are talking about the peace and reconciliation. It is because there was some hatred that started from somewhere. And it has grown up. And it has, the spirit of those grandparents has gone on. And it is the one that is eating the generation today. So I don't think intermarriage is a problem. It is good. It is important. Do I care whether I'm married to a Luo or a Kamba or a what? At the end of the day, it's a husband.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even the U.S. president, Obama, is a product of an intermarriage.
Yeah.
Agenda Kenya takes a break. We are back in a moment. Welcome back to Agenda Kenya with me, Jason Nyantino. Tonight we are discussing peace and reconciliation, and we want to know your role as a Kenyan in ensuring that happens. Shortly before the break, we were discussing intermarriages, and Washira, you had something for us.
Yes, I was going to say I come from what I would consider to be what we call a rainbow family. My wife comes from a different community from Kenya. And I do see it. She comes from Western Kenya, so she's a Maragori.
So you saw this much earlier?
Well, I did, and I went out of my way to build the relationships with my in-laws from across the country. Okay. So I see it as a possibility. Where I hesitate is to also remind Kenyans, we have to remember what we did to those families when we had a crisis. So something more needs to happen. We marry from across the ethnic groups, but when shove comes to push, what did we do last year? We kill them, we chase them away. So it means we still have to work harder to really build the relationships and integrate. I don't think we really need to push our young people to go and marry from across ethnic communities or from outside of the country. They are already doing that. But what is the meaning of that? We know in this country, for example, some of our political leaders, I know they have married from across ethnic lines, but you wouldn't tell from what they say about other communities. So we also need to think carefully, what does it mean when
So
I marry
the
somebody from
script
across the
changes.
continent?
The political
Yes,
script changes.
yes.
from
The politician who needs an ethnic base is still very much alive, even when they have reached out and married from across ethnic communities. We need to go beyond just the act of marrying and building relationships.
All right, Rashida, thanks. My next question is from Kennedy Okoth, who is a student.
Okay, what role does the education system in Kenya play in ensuring or rather curbing peace and reconciliation in the country?
Oh, education system. Now, from the home to the school, Mheshimiwa, from the home to the school.
I think education is a very important avenue for ensuring that there is national reconciliation and peace. And I'm very glad that at this time, the Ministry of Education is actually taking that up. But Kenyans need also to contribute.
What is it
The
doing?
teachers-
What is the ministry doing about it?
Looking into how to factor peace education, peace building in the curricula. You realize that young children are more with the teachers than even with the parents, if you check the number of hours spent during the day. So at that formative stage, it's very important that we impress upon our young ones the value of human life, the respect for other people's views, just the basics that will help us to be good Kenyans.
So-
and also once you put in those basics, they will not be easily swayed by propaganda from either politicians like myself or others. They will be saying, I can't do this, do it yourself. You will notice politicians won't take out machetes to go and kill. They will not go to burn houses. They will ask children, other than their own, to go and burn. So when you hear of people arrested or killed while trying to murder others, it will not be children of politicians. It is using
Politicians don't ask their own children to go and fight.
It's use and dump. And I always say, even if you are poor and jobless, if I as a politician show no respect for you, for goodness sake, have some respect for yourself. Refuse to be made to do what I cannot do. I should never send you on a job I cannot do myself.
Thank you. Education system, Dr. Ringara, provision, I think it was policy. I don't know that it's still operational, that provincial schools, district schools take about 75% of students within the locality. I don't know where did you go to school?
I went to school at Kaga Girls and Kangaroo, and then University of Nairobi.
Now, going through the system, you went through the system. Do you think this quota system of education was beneficial, or there was a mischief behind it?
What I think about education generally, Jason, is that it is fundamental to building peace. And before I answer your question, I'm going to say that, remember, we are not just talking about education in class. We are also talking about practical education. So when we talk of training children, we should also train our teachers so that they know what to do, especially now that
these teachers are the parents we were talking about.
Exactly. Yeah,
right.
And use practical examples of the kinds of conflicts that are happening within the schools, between the teachers, between students, and between administration and the students.
Yes,
use those as case
system.
studies, to build on education for peace. But the quota system, where 75% of students just come from one region, may have served some certain interest where you wanted as many children from around the area to benefit from education instead of taking them far away. But now we are saying that as our systems change, as the reality of our lives change, as we see phenomena like ethnic clashes taking place here, I think we need to reconsider that. Just like we need to reconsider our total education. Our education here is about getting white-collar jobs, but we need to get back to what are we educating people for? It's not enough to be learned. What are we educating people for? So that when that child becomes the MP several years down the line, what message are they telling us along the way? What are they giving us? So it is critical that we overhaul and change our education to meet both our peace and development agenda.
Thank you. Joy, where did you go to school with?
I went to Alliance Girls, which was one of the national schools. And I think I was very privileged to be studying with girls from all around the country.
Do you think that was advantageous to you?
Absolutely. I think it was definitely advantageous. We saw ourselves as Kenyans. We saw ourselves as Kenyan women, not as a Luo woman or a Kikuyu woman or a Kalenjin woman. We saw ourselves as girls who were Kenyans, who were hopefully being educated for some of us to take leadership in the country. So I thought that was actually
So
very
what do you think about this system, the quota system, where a school draws students from just the neighborhood?
I think that, as Dr. Ingera said, where we see that we have issues and problems cropping up, it is always important to review our systems and to understand whether they are actually propelling some of the challenges or whether they're assisting. And where we find that they actually may be instrumental and detrimental to the way that society is moving forward, we need to look at them and overhaul them. But I would also talk about education a bit more broadly, that education is not just about the maths and the sums and the reading and the writing. It is about that individual who is well-informed, who begins to appreciate that diversity is not a threat to anything. An individual who, as the Honorable Karua is saying, has that sense of self-respect, so that when they go out as a voter, they know that the person they're voting for also respects them. So it is a broader kind of an education, beyond the schools and beyond the sums.
Thank you. My audience, wenye inchi sasa. Naanzia upande wangu wa kulia hapa, the gentleman in a light blue shirt.
My question is, what are the key factors which contribute to conflict and animosity? Which, in my view, I believe we should start addressing that even before we start the issue of building peace. Thank you.
Yes, the gentleman in a black shirt.
Yes, thank you. I think we need to go beyond education. If you look at the stereotype that we're talking about, there are those people who still believe that Kikuyus have long hairs. There are those people who think Maasai, they don't wear trousers. There are those people who have those stereotypes. I think we need to come with the outreach programs. Now, here we are talking about educated people. When you talk about education, what about those people who are not privileged like us to have gone to school? Those people who threw stones, those people who killed each other, how do we reach those people? Because here we are when you talk about education, we have those people who are privileged, who went to school, maybe they passed well and went to Alliance and other places.
All right, thank you. We need to go beyond the school system. Any other? The gentleman on my left here, striped shirt.
Okay, thank you. I just want to ask, when you leave the matters of education aside, we go to the media, which has a lot of influence to us. What are you doing as our leaders to influence the media so that they can educate through even that local mwananchi who is down there to come to our resolutions with who is living with his or her neighbor there, the matters of peace and reconciliation?
Thank you, role of the media. I don't know that I'll answer that. Now the lady in glasses on my left.
My concern is about those people who have not gone to school. And when we talk about self-respect, it comes in with the self-esteem. And you'll find that until maybe you go to school and maybe interact with people who feel to appreciate you, you'll find that you actually don't feel like it's not big. You'll feel like it's not big deal to go and even kill people to just get 100 bob and go drink or maybe buy drugs. So I think we need to go beyond the literacy education. We just need to go maybe deeper in terms of like, even when people are not going to school, they need to be educated about self-reliance. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Good comments from my audience. Rebecca, you will start with the first one. Factors which bring about conflict.
You know, there are people, of course, who are educated, and there are those who are not educated. Not everyone is privileged to have education. You know, there is a time that we were told that there was civic education carried out in Kenya. There was no civic education. There was no enough civic education. So for us to get that person who is not educated, we need extensive civic education. Because a human being can learn, doesn't matter what age. We are told of who started reading at the age of 21. So even those ones that are not educated, they can as well understand when civic education is supposed to be taught in the language that these people will understand. So I guess even the education system should have some peace and reconciliation in it.
I think he has already developed a manual to that effect.
Why I'm saying that is because we were also taught about the colonialists, what they did to our land, what they did to us.
The first man to discover Mount Kenya.
Yeah, if peace and reconciliation can be in the books, it means that that knowledge will get in. But mostly I'm saying we must have civic education.
All right, Mheshimiwa, there's an issue that was raised about the media and how politicians can make use of media. What's your take on that?
The media can be positive as well as negative, because when politicians incite, and by the way, the politicians who incite are educated politicians. So education is not all.
Which is a very ironical.
Yes. So when they incite, the media helps to propagate that incitement, if it is not edited. Therefore, if I remember just before the last general elections, incitement was on the media, both electronic and print. So we need ethics which will force the media to cut out material that does not need to go to the public, which will also help us as the public to censor and to penalize people who incite. But because we had been asked of the factors, I have thought of 3 factors.
Please, very quickly.
Incitement, poverty, and ignorance. Incitement by politicians. A hungry person, if you tell them that do X, Y, I pay you, or if you tell them if you evict or kill these people, your life will change, they are likely to lose their senses because of their situation and do as you ask. Ignorance. If you tell people that the poor people having land next to you are the hindrance to your becoming wealthy. If you tell them that they got that land from your ancestors, even if they bought, if they are ignorant of those facts of history, they will believe you. We need thorough education in history so that we understand how various communities came to be distributed all over Kenya. These are historical facts. It was forced migration during the colonial period. And if today we are talking of the land issue, if the population has information in their hands that today the descendants of white settlers and our own brothers and sisters who are wealthy own more land than probably 70% of the population in Kenya, you will know that the answer does not lie with evicting your neighbor. It lies with a land policy that takes care and redistributes the land. So ignorance, poverty, and incitement.
3 factors. Thank you for that, Mheshimiwa. For those of you who are watching us from home, we need your thoughts on this question. Do Kenyan parents promote negative ethnicity or tribalism, if you like, while bringing up children? Send your yes or no to 8898. Stay with us. Agenda Kenya comes back in a moment. Welcome back to Agenda Kenya with me, Jason Nyantino. Tonight we are discussing peace and reconciliation, and we are looking at how best we can reconcile this nation in light of last year's post-election violence. This takes me to the next question of the evening from Njue Kamunde, who is an author. Njue.
Traditional peacekeeping methods have always been very effective. We have groups like Njorincheke, Kayas, and the others. Why hasn't this angle been looked at to see if it can also bring peace, especially at the community level?
Thank you. Traditional justice systems, Washira.
Yes, thank you very much, Jason. But very quickly to comment on the area discussion about the quota system, I just wanted to indicate that I don't necessarily think because you went to different places to school, you're going to end up a better Kenyan. But I also want to point out that I went to school in 3 different provinces, I started in my province of Central Kenya, went to Nairobi, and then went to the coast.
Shmiwa,
Yes.
where did you go to school?
I went to school from 1 to 4 fully in Kirinyaga.
You are nationalist.
And for A-levels, I came to Nairobi and then the university. So I came to Nairobi as an adult.
All right. Rebecca?
I went to school in Kangundo. Misiani Girls.
Throughout? Or until college?
University, I went to Kenyatta University.
All right.
Proceed. I continue. And then also very quickly, the question on the causes of conflict. To say you can think at 2 levels. Number one, there are what you would call the tangible causes of conflict. This is what people say, this is what we are fighting about, whether it's land, whether it's power, whether it's resources, and so on. And these are very, very important. But there is another important level that can actually help us to deal with those tangible issues, whether we are trying to resolve questions of land and so on and so forth. This we call the relational aspects of conflict.
Very quickly.
This have to do with our emotions, with our stereotypes, with our perceptions, and they are very, very, very important for us at the moment in Kenya. So even as we think about the major structural changes that we need to see in Kenya, let's also think about our relationships as individual peoples in Kenya. How do I think about that other person for the other community? Because it's important in terms of how we are going to resolve the questions of the constitutional review process. Now, when we think about traditional justice systems, we tend to think about things that used to happen in the past and they're no longer happening. That is not the case. Today, some of the big peace-building stories in Kenya, from northeastern Kenya to the North Rift to other parts of the country, are about how traditional justice systems are working. These are based on our institutions of elders, and other leaders in society, and they've been efficient in some ways.
There's a new commission, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission.
Yes.
Do you know how it's going to work? Is it going to work with these structures, or it's a totally parallel arrangement?
Yes. I haven't studied it closely to see exactly how it's going to work, and I'm sure Honorable Karua would be able to say something about that. But I would think, whether we are talking about the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission, whether we are talking about the National Cohesion Commission, it would be a mistake if we ignore that there does exist and subsist traditional mechanisms of justice and reconciliation that we need to employ in order to move our societies forward. You have mentioned the Juri Ncheke, and there are various others in our communities that I do know exist and I have worked with, particularly in the North Rift. We need to pay attention to this because at the end of the day, reconciliation in this country is going to be about how do those people that hurt each other, harmed each other, get together again.
Right.
We need encounters between people in order for this to happen.
There is an illustration from Olepolo's village. This is among the Maasai community. There is a traditional parliament in this village called Engigwana. It's an institution charged with making decisions on crucial matters affecting community members, and elders are mandated to hear disputes. Even if you've been taken to court, you still face the elders. And the justice system is so effective. So, Joy, what do you think? Are we running to the normal justice system so quickly, and we're leaving our solutions?
I think what that shows is that we have several alternatives, and that we need to work with the alternatives as much as we can, all of them. And where we cannot actually, because I'm just wondering what the young people will think about those elder councils, and some of them might have resistance to that. But where we have those sorts of resistances is to look at the principles that operate in bringing that reconciliation around. What are the principles of those councils which we can pick up now and use in this contemporary society to resolve these sorts of issues? So I wouldn't rule them out, but I say that we do seem to have a plate full of alternatives that we must take advantage of, if that is the case.
Rebecca, traditional justice systems.
You know, in my community, I've never attended one traditional, but I belong to the church, which is critical in such. So if I belong to the women ministry, I can be able to reach to those women. I can be able to reach other people in the church, because but I know there are other communities that have the traditional groups, but I've never attended one.
But you're saying the church can also step in?
Oh yeah, it is traditional, because the church has always been there. That is part of the traditional.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because the church is there, and all of us
All right.
belong to one.
Before Mheshimiwa explains the National Cohesion Commission that has just been put in place, Dr. Ringera, there is talk of peace and reconciliation committees at the district commissioners level. I don't know, have you heard about them?
Exactly, I've heard about them, and actually this morning I was at the office of the Secretariat for Peace Building and Conflict in Kenya, and Mr. S.K. Maina was telling me that the place to go is to the DC's office because they have local committees that have been set up.
So
because
do people know that these committees exist?
That's where the media role is really significant here, because people need to know that these things exist, and they need to know where to go so that they can learn the things that are happening within their communities to help them build peace.
Much as we're doing, because part of this show, of course, they will learn that we have peace and reconciliation committees in every DC's office in this country. So please go there when you have that need. But these people should not always hide that the media is the one that has to pass on this information. They need to come out and talk about it, because as we will always report. Yeah, if they talk about it, we'll always report. I'm not trying to be defensive, but they need to be proactive also. Mheshimiwa, there's the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. How will it work?
Before I get to that, the Peace and Reconciliation Committees, the way they are formatted is wrong. You cannot have the same administrators who presided over the chaos leading the Peace and Reconciliation Committee. You need the communities themselves to elect men, women, and youth they can trust. People who can mobilize others around each other.
So the committee is not people-driven?
It is not people-driven.
Who appoints this committee?
This is under the office of the president, but coming from a background where I was in a ministry where the National Cohesion and Integration Commission is going to come about, we had started thinking about what was wrong with the structures. But now that the National Commission on Cohesion and Integration is there, it is supposed to spearhead necessary policy and legislation on these issues on a continuous basis. They are supposed to consult the people. I don't know what methodology they will use. It's supposed to be participatory, but so that we can say all these things.
A national thing?
It's a national organization. It may not, I don't know whether it will have offices, but I think not. But if you think of the Kenya Human Rights Commission, because of their advocacy.
Mheshimiwa,
yeah.
But the big cast will be there if they don't have an office.
I think the cast will be there. The office will be there. The cast will be there for them to travel. But what I'm saying is this, that you do not need to have grassroots offices to be felt. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has only one office in Nairobi, and I know they opened an office in Wajir because I opened it for them when I was a minister. Yet they are known in every corner of Kenya. And to interact with the people, the commission can move there and interact with the people itself. So as Kenyans, let us define what we want this commission to do for us.
Are you hopeful that this commission will deliver? It
will start. We will make it deliver as Kenyans. Okay. Let us not be skeptical about all organizations. And if we are skeptical about government, we vote it out. But institutions that are going to remain, our agitation, our advocacy as citizens can cause the change we want.
All right. Asante sana Mheshimiwa. Daktari utapata wakati. Let me hear from the lady in black on my right.
I think that we've just made history. It is the principles in those traditional councils and the people working them that makes them work. What does that mean? Kenyans must change their thinking, then they will have leaders that respect them and will help them bring this change home. We will do it. We will do it. We've just made it.
I like the hope. Wow. Any other? The gentleman in a tie on my right.
Okay, there's a problem that has happened recently in Starehe, whereby the ownership, we are employed. The owner sends police to come and, okay, by the way, I was beaten by the police, and I know the owner. So is the police bringing in peace, or they are coming to disrupt?
Pole sana. So the lady in the red, red dress.
Okay, kwa mambo ya peace committees, I'm a member of peace committee in my Nairobi West district. The structures tulitengeneza zile nzuri sana na ziko. Problem ni kwamba ukisikia wakisema hawajui wengi wao ni politicians. And now wamejua kuna kitu hapo, utasikia wakiuliza mtu wangu ako hapo, and that's why wana doubt hizo committees. But in Nairobi West kwetu, Nairobi West District, tulitengeneza hizo structures.
Mnasaidia watu
Yeah.
kwa hiyo committee?
Yeah, sana. Wakati kulikuwa moto, ndio tulikuja pamoja na tukatengeneza, na tulitembea na tukasaidia sana. But now, saa hizi vile sasa inajulikana hiyo kitu iko, kila mbunge na kila mtu anataka kujua hii ya kwangu iko aje na iko na nani.
Political interference.
Yeah.
Asante sana. Now, Mheshimiwa, you need to respond to the Grogan question.
Yes, I think the issue there is the rule of law, because the rule of law plays a very big part in keeping peace. If our security agents had responded properly, we would not have had the problems we had after the post-election. They would have been taken care of. But when you have indiscipline within the police force, when you have police applying illegal methods in an attempt to safeguard the law, when they become themselves the lawbreakers, like now beating the mechanics in Grogan Road or Kirinyaga Road, they were supposed to let whoever claims is the owner go to court and get an eviction order. But they were taking a shortcut, obviously greased by the owner, and then they go beating up people. Even to evict.
Mheshimiwa, will you change that if you become the president?
Definite. Discipline.
But I need to go to Jay and Rashida. Dr. Ringera, is it possible that we can have peace without justice in this country?
How can you have peace without justice? You cannot.
So what comes
have
first?
Peace
Justice
without justice has to come first. You have to have justice to have peace.
Because I'll give you an example. We have, in Molo district alone, we have over 4,000 IDPs. Then we are busy talking about, let us reconcile,
Jason, that's a very important issue that you raise here, because someone said, no matter what Kenyans do, no matter what politicians do, no matter what churches do, as long as we have our brothers and sisters living in IDPs right now, no matter where you pray, your prayers will not get to God. So please, Kenyans,
they'll be stopped at the gate.
Let us take home our brothers and sisters who are in IDPs, and then we can start talking about peace building and reconciliation. Secondly, Jason, other African countries have examples of people-to-people initiatives, like what our sister there has talked about, that is working. Rwanda had the Gishasha program. It was initiated by the people, but they worked with the judiciary, they worked with the government. And then Southern Sudan had the people-to-people project, which was actually supported especially by women. Women are the ones who are going to these places, talking to chiefs, talking to politicians, talking to church leaders, so that everybody could come together and talk about how to end conflict in Southern Sudan. So Kenyans, we can learn from other African countries, because they have set examples if we don't know what to do, Honorable Mother Karua. So, and then the last thing that I'm going to say is that peace begins with each one of us. Let us not start thinking that it is a politician who will come and tell us what to do. We are saying that politicians are leaders. We are the leaders ourselves. It begins with us.
All right, Dr. Joy, can we have peace without justice?
No, definitely not. I think that peace is the end fruit. And the pillars, one of the pillars is definitely justice. And so I think that we must drive that way. But then I think, as Dr. Ngere is saying, peace starts with each one. Peace does not start with an institution. Peace does not start in an amorphous way. Peace starts with an individual. It starts with each one of us. And for me, the bigger worry, we were talking about the key factors for conflict, is the opposite effect that happens when there is mistrust between these institutions or the leadership and the votership. It means that your votership will be indifferent, they'll be neglectful of their responsibilities, they'll become apathetic, they'll be disillusioned, they'll become alienated. That is a keg powder for trouble. And so I think that we also need to think about ourselves as the ones who vote. What is our own responsibility? Peace starts with me, but I need to be a responsible individual who enables that peace to happen.
There you have it. There you have it. Peace begins with you as the individual. That is how we come to a close for this week's edition of Agenda Kenya. I thank my panel. I thank my studio audience for this wonderful discussion. For those of you at home, please send us your thoughts on this question. Do Kenyan parents promote negative ethnicity, or if you like, tribalism, while bringing up children? Send us your thoughts to 8898. Give us your name, where you're watching us from. Look out for the result in next week's program. And from all of us here, good night. God bless you.